Welcome back to another episode of the KarterKast. I'm your host, Karter Baughan. With me, as always, Dylan, Ben, Connor. We're back. College football week 3 preview. Before we get into the show, we're brought to you by SeatGeek. Download the SeatGeek app or go to SeatGeek.com. Use code KarterKast. $20 off your first purchase. $50 minimum purchase required. Use code KarterKast. $20 off your tickets at SeatGeek. Download the SeatGeek app or go to SeatGeek.com. Dylan. We're shutting the door. Texas, Michigan. Yeah. Any last thoughts? Let's just get it over with.
I've said pretty much all that I need to say. I'm interested to hear what Ben and Connor have to say because we have not met in person since this game. And, my thoughts remain unchanged. I did the live stream with Ghosts of Texas. Michigan looked really bad, but a lot of the things that Texas fans were saying that would happen didn't happen. And you could say, well, they didn't have the chance to. They had a short field the whole time, and I think that just goes to speak to my point even more. One thing I do want to bring up, I've kind of came up from the trenches a little bit. I was really low on Michigan. And these are stats, right? I know you guys are going to hate this. Davis Warren graded out better than Quinn Ewers did in that game. And I know, hey, listen. I don't think Davis Warren's a great quarterback, right? But I went back and watched some tape. He had technically no turnover-worthy plays. So he had the pass to Loveland where Loveland didn't run the right route or Warren didn't know where he was going, threw it at his back, and then the other interception that hit the receiver's hands, and I looked at PFF's grading scale. They don't consider that a turnover-worthy play. And neither did Quinn. But I could see where they got the grade. There were some flashes of impressive throws from Davis Warren. There's a lot of bad, Karter, and we talked about – there was one point at the live stream where we talked about Patrick Mahomes-esque play from Davis Warren. I rewatched the live stream.
Did we?
Yeah, you might have been joking a little bit, but it was
minus 50 subs after that.
There were a couple impressive throws. Now, I still think we're 8-4 is now looking like a good season. If
best
I'm being
case
completely
scenario.
honest, it really is looking like best case scenario. But now that I'm kind of up from the trenches, a couple things I saw from Davis Warren that I kind of liked. There was a lot that I didn't like. But PFF, they get paid to do this data analysis stuff. About a 1.5 higher passer grade than Quinn Ewers that game.
Don't worry, Blake Shapen is better than Quinn Ewers according to PFF.
Oh, yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. There's a whole, Taylon Green's like the 4th rated in the country this year.
One thing I've tried to do this whole football preview season is bring stats to this show, but then also give analysis on them and maybe what they mean and what I take away from that. Yes, PFF is a great source for that, Dylan, but if you watch that game, you can't tell me that Davis Warren played better than Quinn Ewers. And yes, you can blame other people on the team, you can blame the offense, field position, whatever you want to do, but you can't watch that game just as a fan of football, as an unbiased fan, and say that Davis Warren played better than Quinn Ewers. So that's why we can't just put all our eggs in that PFF basket, right?
I was going to agree and add on to it and say that PFF is a great tool, right? And so is rewatching, but Dylan, I think you got to put a little more stock into the first watch, into live watching the game.
How it made you feel.
Yes, because those feelings matter.
I would disagree because I don't think the feelings matter. The feelings
facts don't care about your feelings.
Facts do not care about your feelings, and I understand what you're saying. You can take into account the feelings that you have during the game, but as a Michigan fan, those are always going to be multiplied by 10. And then you look at it 3 days later and you're like, okay, because when I saw the PFF grade, I was like, that makes absolutely no sense. Davis Warren looked awful. And then I looked up what constitutes turnover-worthy play. I rewatched not the whole game, but the 11-minute highlights you see on YouTube. And Davis Warren, he made some difficult throws that impressed me. Now, here's where I'll give you guys credit. Ewers didn't have to make those throws. The whole game. There was one throw.
That's a double-edged sword. That's a double-edged sword, Dylan. You're starting to push back a little bit.
What do you mean?
You're Ewers didn't have to make those throws. You're giving us a point, but in reality, you're being Ewers couldn't make those throws because he didn't have to. So that's why he looks so good. You're not backing off. You're not backing off at all.
What am I not backing off of? I'm not saying Texas is a bad team. I never. Oh my gosh, you're starting.
You're doing it again. You're doing it again.
No. I'm being dead serious. We gave that first half, right? That first half, they scored 24. Bad punt, interception, fumble, unforced fumble. I mean, that was just Loveland. He caught the ball. He tried to move it to his other hand, and he dropped it, right? And I'm not taking anything away from Texas. I really don't want that to seem to be the case. But Michigan did not do themselves any favors.
They did.
So it's, Quinn Ewers didn't use their athletes and go over the top of us like everybody in that Texas Twitter space said they were going to. But at the same time, they didn't have to. So it's like I said, it stinks that this happened in season 2 because we're going to sit here and talk about this game. And later, we're going to talk about our top quarterbacks, and we're going to talk about national championship contenders. We have 2 points of data, and it's like maybe we'll have a different conversation in 4 weeks. Again, not taking anything away from Texas. They're in tier 1B for me, but this game said a lot more about Michigan than it did Texas, in my opinion.
We'll get into national title stuff in a second. The last thing we'll talk about this game, and then we'll shut the door on it forever. The point Ben and Connor made is fantastic because, Dylan, think about it in this way. 3rd and long, you were never confident that Davis Warren was going to be able to convert on 3rd and long. Every time Quinn Ewers stepped back to throw, you got scared. That's the difference that PFF doesn't calculate for.
But the reason I was scared with Quinn Ewers was because our guys weren't closing out in the open field. We were awful on 3rd down the whole time. It's like the defense was not showing 3rd and 13. It wasn't Quinn Ewers throwing for 30 yards down the field. It was a 5-yard pass in the flat, and they were making it happen. And Michigan, honestly, and I've conceded this the whole time, Michigan doesn't have the guys in the wide receiver room to do things like that. They honestly,
somebody to tell you.
You could really argue they didn't have it last year. So it's
no, they had it last year.
I mean,
Roman
they
Wilson
weren't bad.
Roman
Wilson wasn't bad.
A legit NFL player.
Sure, yeah, but it was sad to see. But now that I'm coming back up from the low, there are some positives to pull away. But I still think 8-4 is like USC is now going to be a challenge. Didn't think they were going to be a challenge at the beginning of the year. Oregon, I understand they had some bad showings, but I really still think they're a top tier team. Ohio State's looked great against Stony Brook and School of the Blind. So it's going to be interesting.
Last comment on this, Dylan, is just as a member of this show with you, you've handled it with grace. I will say you haven't stepped down, like you got attacked and you didn't come off your pedestal and go back on everything you said. I respect that. And if I was a Texas SEC fan in the comments or trashing you online or whatever, and you stuck with it, I would have a lot more respect for you for sticking with what you believe in, even after a tough Michigan loss. So no like funny business.
But Connor, where is this clown?
Where is he at?
Can he come address the comments?
How did he get a mic? Why is a mic not worth $1 billion?
And you know what? After I heard myself sing that little Texas fight song, I could see why they wanted to take my mic away. I'm not much of a singer.
Go ahead, Dylan. I've got a point. But
you go ahead because I have kind of like a closing question about this.
Okay. Okay. I was just going to say that I have some bad news for the listeners. For the comment section. I hate to break it to them, but anyone can start a podcast.
Literally.
I hate to break it to them. That they're in shambles right now hearing this.
You
don't have to have a microphone.
You're talking about numbers, Dylan? 98% of the people that have been in the comments from social media, if they tried to start a podcast, it would be the biggest dumpster fire we've ever seen in the history. All
right. Let's move on from this. Let's move on from this. I don't want to do this.
I did want to ask.
Yeah, I want to do this.
No, I don't.
Last question. There's something else I wanted to say. What was I going to say? Shout out to everybody that accepted the apology. There were a couple people that accepted the apology, and I didn't think I'd get that. Karter, I've talked to you about it. Ben, Connor, Texas, Michigan. You walk away from that game feeling better about Texas, feeling worse about Michigan.
Am I allowed to say 50-50, or is that a cop-out answer? Because I saw a lot of...
Give me one or the other.
I think I feel better about Texas.
Okay.
I think I do, Dylan. I really do. Saw a lot from them that I like.
Thank you. That's saying a lot about Michigan.
A pretty stout Michigan defense.
It's not saying a lot about Michigan because we thought Michigan was going to get rolled in this game.
I came into the year really low in Michigan, so that I felt better about Texas.
All right. We need to move this
I need
along.
to hear from Ben.
I was going to say it confirmed me feeling worse about Michigan, but that's like 51-49. Okay. Anyway, yeah, we can move off.
National
this.
champions.
Yeah, I'm so done talking about this. We need to talk. Yeah, I'm so done talking about this. Every time we talked about it before we got on, you every time you pull up your phone, 10 new notifications calling Dylan an idiot. Great, who cares?
Just saying, we have kind of figured out the content machine though. I mean, let's be real.
So we're a bit show now. We're a clip show.
Not quite.
No, it's not.
No.
That's the thing. Everything I say, I truly believe. Sometimes I'm just wrong.
True.
But hey, when I hit this underdog that we're going to talk about, I want everybody in the comments saying, wow, Dylan, you know ball.
And last thing, talking about last week, Dylan took some bullets for Connor, Ben, and I, because we said NC State was going to beat Tennessee, and that was the dumbest pick of all time.
Oh,
But
yeah.
no one cared. There was probably like 5 comments being like, y'all are idiots about Tennessee. We're
Yeah.
like, that's hidden by 3,000 comments calling
Dylan
Dylan
was
an
shielding
idiot.
us like the soldier with the bullets.
Yeah, that literally was to say we need to get that Photoshop, the guy with the arrows, taking the arrows in the back. That's so funny.
My goodness. All right.
I do it for the cast.
Let's talk about college football as a whole. This week kind of stinks. We talked about it off the air. If you have a girlfriend or a significant other, whatever, this is the week to take them out and go to the pumpkin patch, go apple picking. Because you got to get one of those in a season during the fall when it's great weather. This is the week. This week stinks. I don't even know where College Game Day could go. They might be going to a high school game. They might be going to see Caitlin Clark play in the WNBA this week.
They're going to South Carolina, which
Yeah.
is yikes.
LSU,
Yikes.
right?
Yeah.
South Carolina, LSU. And
Yeah, I mean, I think South Carolina might be able to win that game. It's going to be a fun environment down there in Columbia, but meh. Is that like the lowest? I've never been less excited for a College Game Day, to be honest. But there's 2 games we'll preview, and then we're just going to talk about college football talking points as a whole in this episode today, because we have 2 weeks of tape, 2.5 weeks worth of tape to look at. We finally can form real takes after seeing 2 weeks of games. Not great takes, but we can get there. Let's talk about national title contenders right now. We've seen 2 weeks. Who is in that top tier list of true, real national title contenders? And I can start off first. I think there are 3 true national title contenders. I think it's Georgia, Ohio State, and Texas. And I think there is a drop-off after that, because you have teams like Ole Miss, dynamite offense. We haven't seen them win a big game yet under Lane Kiffin. We need to see that defense step up in a major way in a big game. Then you have teams like Alabama. I have a lot of questions about Alabama this season. LSU, they're done. We got Oregon. They can barely beat the teams in Idaho. Maybe Idaho might be the best football state in the country. Who knows at this point, because they're hanging toe-to-toe with Oregon every week, who's supposed to be a national title contender. I really think it's just those 3.
I don't think there's any other opinion to form 2 weeks in. I think you're spot on, Carter. I think that the top 3, Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, have separated themselves from that 1B or second group, if you want to call it second tier. Because look, Ole Miss, electric. I like them a lot. But do you really see them winning a national title? Something in me says no. And then you look at some of the fun teams like Tennessee or Miami, it's like a lot of positions are really young. And then if you look at just talent top to bottom, position by position, go through their roster, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, it's just a rung above like Miami and Tennessee. Like, yes, they have electric offenses. They're fun. And I want to say they're a national title contender. But if it gets down to it and I have to pick between, the top 3 versus a fun team like that, I'm picking Georgia. I'm picking Texas. I'm picking Ohio State through 2 weeks. I don't think there's any other answer. It's boring. It's chalk. But I think it's true. And through 2 weeks, I've seen nothing else to make me stray from those top 3.
And also, I wanted to add, Penn State was toe-to-toe with Bowling Green.
Yeah.
Yeah, Penn State I feel worse about, 100%.
I wanted to add, I'm also in agreement that those are the 3 teams. Those are the ones that I was coming in with. Are there any other teams in your mind that can insert themselves into this conversation?
Ole Miss, 100%.
I think
Jackson
Ole
Dart,
Miss, and I think if you start to see things click from Oregon, I can. Just because of the talent they have on that roster. I'm not either. They just haven't proven this year, in my opinion, that they are in that conversation, but I think they have the roster and the talent to do that.
I might
They're
be
not
writing
there now.
Oregon off.
Already?
This is concerning. I've watched almost every snap of Oregon football. This is a disaster over there when you watch this. I don't see a world they compete with Ohio State the way they currently look. That should be a 20-point blowout in that game. The way
Currently
right
look,
now.
though. Currently look. I'm not saying that this current Oregon team can do it. I'm just saying, what if things click? What if Dylan Gabriel, that all clicks and comes together?
But that defense never comes together is the issue. That defense, I'm sorry, if you're giving up 30, 40 points to Boise State, that's a problem. I understand Boise State probably has the best running back in the country, and their dynamite offense. They put up 50-plus against Georgia Southern, but that can't happen. You're not a national title contender if you're in shootouts with Boise State and you're going toe-to-toe with Idaho. Maybe the Vandals are great, though, but Dylan.
So I still have Oregon in my top tier. I just believe in my heart of hearts that there's something that landing in this Oregon team isn't showing us yet. You know, you can hang your hat on. We had the conversation about Dylan Gabriel on the NFL recap show very quickly. No turnover worthy plays. I understand we're early in the season, but that is a process oriented stat that I think you can put some stock in. And I think there's only 6 quarterbacks that have that still to this point. I think Oregon's in there. I think you have to include Georgia. I think Tennessee's one team that's like on the outside that could very well be in. And Connor, you brought up the point about, and Karter, like Ole Miss. We haven't seen the defense hold up in a big spot, but it's a powerful offense that we've seen historically that can force an upset. And I think Tennessee 2 years ago against Alabama, it really widens the range of possibilities in terms of who wins the game. So we take teams like Ole Miss, we take teams like Tennessee, whose defense looks much better than it has in years past.
Yes.
I'm even thinking Miami, an offensive, fast team that could ruin someone's season if they were to make it into the 12-team playoff.
Yeah, I think Tennessee's a great point. I think they're a team that can definitely sneak in there because you watch that NC State game, that defense was swarming. And maybe NC State's a bad team, and maybe I misunderstood how poorly, how bad this offensive line is.
Karter. Don't worry.
Yeah, I was about to say this is a disaster over here, but Tennessee, man, Nico really didn't have to do that much in that game. It was really bad defense.
He didn't grade out that well in that game. It was just the defense getting those stops. They let Tennessee get the ball, hold on to the ball, and that's really all that they needed to do in that game.
And Dylan, I'm not, I don't always read stats. I don't do PFF. Like, I obviously look at stats, but I don't like to read them off the podcast. But I think it's important to read off Nico's stats in this game because he went 16 of 23, 211 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he had 65 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown. But you look at those passing stats and you're like, if NC State going into that game, you say, oh, he threw for 200 yards, had 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. We're taking that. That means we probably win that game.
Yeah. And I want to speak about the picks real quick. That is a point of emphasis and a little bit of concern for me as a young quarterback. It's like, is that an exception? Is that being new and getting things worked out? Or is that what we're going to see all season from him? And I love Tennessee, right? I think Nico's electric to watch, but that's going to be something to monitor moving forward. Is this just because he's young and it's new, or is it something we're going to see for the rest of the season? It might be a problem.
Tennessee's on that next tier where like they've got one foot in the fence for me to where it's like that would be the next team I put in that top tier. And to have a young quarterback like Nico, and yes, he had the 2 picks, but he was being aggressive and it didn't seem like he was forcing anything. And that could have been because of the defense. It could have been because State's offense is really bad. I don't know which side to maybe take away more from, whether I feel worse about State or better about Tennessee. But if Nico can be poised like throughout this regular season, they're coming up. They play Kent State this weekend, and then they're
at Oklahoma.
Yeah, at Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. That is, I think, where we'll learn a lot about Nico and this Tennessee team, whether or not they deserve to be in that 1A tier with these other powerhouses. Because, like Dylan said, like you said, Karter, their defense was swarming, and NC State, for all their faults, they were supposed to be pretty good coming into the year. There's not a bunch of bumps on that offense. So for Tennessee's defense to look like that in a big spot in a primetime game and a standalone game in Charlotte, I think that's very encouraging, and it's something they haven't really had in the past. To where it's like, oh, Tennessee's got an electric quarterback. Hendon Hooker's awesome. Joe Milton, whatever, but their defense is really faulty. And this year it seems like they've got it figured out.
When do we get to put Miami in that tier?
I already have them there.
With Georgia?
I would have them as... No.
They're a run below Georgia. Yeah, they're in Tennessee's tier right now. Yes.
They're in that Tennessee Ole Miss tier for me.
I think so too.
They're good.
And I want to say real quick, I didn't really touch on Texas for this conversation. I have them in like 1B, but their schedule, like they have Georgia at home. I mean, I guess Vanderbilt has impressed, but and then they have Oklahoma at home, but
no, Dylan, you just exposed yourself.
Why?
Oklahoma at home? Come on, man. That's at the Cotton Bowl.
At the Cotton Bowl. I don't know. I don't. Okay, well, wherever it's at, right? The point I wanted to make was
River.
Again, yeah, R-cubed. Oklahoma against Houston. I understand Oklahoma pulled that out. Did it go to overtime, or am I thinking of another game?
What are you talking about? Oklahoma State, Arkansas?
No, Oklahoma, Houston.
No, went down to the wire though.
To the wire. Oklahoma. Houston had a better success rate. Houston had better net EPA per play. I understand this isn't a conversation about Oklahoma, but for Texas, I think that Oklahoma game is going to be a little bit easier than maybe what they thought going into it, which helps them a lot.
Yeah, but they thought that last year, and that's just a rivalry game. There's no rhyme or reason when it comes to Texas-Oklahoma. Anybody can win that game.
All right, yeah, I'll remember that.
Last year's Oklahoma team, I think, is definitely better than this year's, though.
I do not like Jackson Arnold. I am not a big fan of his after watching these last couple weeks.
No, I'm not either. And you don't have Jeff Lebby anymore, too. Like, that means something. So
I hate to pose this question again after we talked about it like 3 weeks ago, but I think it does need to be asked again on this show. There's a real world Miami goes undefeated.
I was just about to ask that, Connor.
I mean, if you look at their schedule, Florida State was the one game we had circled as a potential letdown spot. They're awful this year. I'm not worried about that at all.
Connor, read the schedule, and it's all W's.
You want me to go down? You ready?
Go
Ball State, USF, sneaky tough, Virginia Tech at home, California, who's better than people thought. Only tough game, Louisville, at Louisville. But even then, I trust Miami in that spot. Yeah. Then Florida State, Duke at home, Georgia Tech, Wake, Syracuse. Cupcakes to end the season in the ACC.
Syracuse.
There's a real world Miami finishes with one loss. Yeah, so they could slip up once. I think 11-1 is like pretty reasonable expectations, and then they win the ACC.
And we were called crazy. We were called crazy for saying Miami's going to go 11-1, 12-0. This schedule is a joke. This is this.
And now everybody wants to jump in. Everybody wants to jump in now.
And people not being in on Miami kind of proves that nobody actually watched Big 12 football or Pac-12 football. I feel like nobody actually watched it because everyone's like, DJU's a good quarterback. Oh, you're saying the U is back? Cam Ward was so dynamite at Washington State. That team was so bad. And DJU actually had a really good team around him. In Oregon State, they were terrible with DJU. They should have won 10 games. They should have been playing for the Pac-12 title game. Yeah.
And now Cam Ward behind a good O-line looks like he's floating around out there. No pressure at all.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Florida was a tough environment, but then, F Florida A&M. Gosh, sorry there. Cam Ward just looks like he's having fun out there, floating around. Like, I don't know what else to say. Better O-line. We called this.
He looks like a 95 overall quarterback in college.
He has the look of, like, I don't know, there's some sort of, like, as the kids say, aura. Like, where you're watching him, you're like, that's a Heisman guy. That's a Heisman guy.
Like,
you know what I mean?
It's like an 8th grader.
You can just see him out
like
there.
A 6th grade tournament. It's like, I'm just going to go out here and coast and look cool. Yeah.
So I want to bring this up real quick since we're talking about Miami. I don't know if anybody watched the Clemson game, but they played like they had something to prove against a pretty good App State team. Is there any worries there that you have this great Clemson defense versus this great Miami offense and that, maybe the defense overshadows?
No, because one, I think App State was very overrated coming into this season. I think a lot of people just said the words App State and they're like, they're going to be a fun group of 5 team. They're not making the playoff. That's not a great App State team. But also at the same time, I've been saying this time and time again, I think I was almost more impressed with Clemson after that Georgia game, especially that first half. Not the offense. That defense is top tier. That defense is a top 5 defense in this country. You make a great point. I think they're, if you're looking at it right now, it's going to be Miami in the ACC title game. And then you're staring at 3 other teams. You're staring at Louisville. You're staring at Boston College.
I was going to say Boston College, Karter.
And you're staring at Clemson. Those are the I think that's it. That's what your ACC title game is going to be, a mix of Miami versus one of those 3 teams.
Yeah. They're down more than we thought.
As an ACC original, Karter, as a truther, that disgusts me. Where's Carolina and Duke and NC State and Wake Forest? Virginia.
Duke and Virginia are 2-0, so realistically, they could make the ACC
Well, Carolina's
title
2-0 too, so, let's calm down.
Yeah,
ACC, we're back.
Is that the grossest 6-0 right there, Duke, Carolina, Virginia?
That sounds about right,
Add BYU in there.
Yeah, now we're getting into the weeds.
Yeah, anyhow. I don't want to put anybody in the Big 12. I don't think anybody in the Big 12 has a real shot. Cam Rising, this guy's not going to be able to stay healthy. He hurt his thumb or whatever, his hand in that game. This guy, it's hard to believe he's going to go through 12, 15 games this season.
Yeah, and life with Isaac Wilson this year, I think he's a guy who's going to end up being, Zach Wilson's brother is going to end up being very good. This is not the year. And I don't think you feel super comfortable if he's your quarterback and you've, for an extended period of time, and you have college football playoff aspirations. So I think you just got to pray that Cam Rising, Brant Keithy stay healthy, because when they do stay healthy, I don't think they're national championship contenders, but they are very, very good. Clearly the class of the Big 12, clearly a college football playoff team.
Oklahoma State's going to upset them next week. We'll see. I'm excited.
I still like you talking about the Big 12 if Rising's healthy.
Yeah.
I hate to say
Yeah.
it.
Anything else we want to touch on regarding national title contenders?
Nope.
If you had to pick one team right now, who would you go with
To win it?
to win it all?
The
I
Ohio
was
State
gonna say
Buckeyes.
I was going to say Ohio State too.
I was going to say Ohio State.
I'm going Georgia. Yeah,
Not Texas.
we do understand they've played Akron and Western Michigan, right?
I understand
Yeah.
that, but
Okay,
I know
all right,
how
I just
good
want to
this
make sure.
team
I
is.
just want to make sure.
This is based off of preconceived notions that I had of them before as well. That plays into
Okay.
it still.
Okay.
That plays into it still. It's we're going into week 3. That still applies. Once we're getting into week 5, week 6, then you got to throw that out.
Let's start talking about quarterbacks. Once again, we're going to preview BC, Missouri later in the show, and Arizona, Kansas State later in the show. But let's talk quarterbacks right now. Through 2 weeks, like we did with the national title contenders, who are the top 5 quarterbacks in your mind right now? After 2 weeks, who are your top 5 quarterbacks in college football? I'll start with you, Dylan.
Top 5 quarterbacks. It's a tricky question because we had mulled over the idea of like which quarterback is the most NFL ready, which quarterback do you want in the playoffs. When you go top, just my opinion, top college football quarterbacks, you have to have the passing capability, you have to have the run threat, and you have to have an explosiveness to your throws, right? So I think if we want an ordered list, I would go number 5. It's so tough because we have guys like Miller Moss and Nico that we can't really say.
We haven't seen enough. I'm with you.
We just
on
haven't
that.
seen enough yet.
I'm with you.
Oh, gosh. I didn't know we were going to do rankings. I would say number 5, best college football quarterbacks. I think you have to say Shedeur Sanders. I think you have to have him on the list. Even though we've talked about certain aspects about his game or how he acts, the talent
Off
is
the
still
field.
obviously there. Yeah, talent is still there. Am I going all 5 at once?
Yeah, real quick, I want to touch on the Shedeur Sanders point. If Shedeur Sanders had a good offensive line and he was in a great Power 5 situation, he would be talked about as the Heisman candidate this season. Could you imagine if just an average subpar quarterback was playing at Colorado right now? They would win 1 game.
I think you can't argue that the talent isn't there, and I think you're exactly right. It's just unfortunate situation he's in terms for his career. I'm going to go no order because I'm racking my brain having to put these guys in order. So I said Shedeur Sanders. I would say you have to have Cam Ward up there, Jackson Dart, Carson Beck.
Say it, Dylan.
Yeah, say Dylan Gabriel.
No, I'm not going to say Dylan Gabriel.
Oh!
Blake Shapen.
Anthony
I'd have
Calandria.
I'd have to-
Sellers.
I'd have to go Ewers, but he's in a different. He's like he doesn't bring, in my opinion, he doesn't bring the upside that Dart or Ward brings you. But if you want to talk about the most NFL ready college football quarterback, you have to say Quinn Ewers.
So no Noah Fafita.
I had him on my list here. Turnovers bother me.
Mm-hmm.
Ben, go.
I think there's a clear top 4. I think Cam Ward and the 3 top quarterbacks in the SEC are in a class of their own. Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck. I don't really
No
have
Jalen
them
Milroe.
ordered.
No Jalen Milroe in the top 3 SEC. Huh?
Oh, get Ewers out. I'm
No.
putting Milroe in. I'm putting Milroe in. Get Ewers
Milroe.
out.
No.
Get Milroe
No.
out.
And then the fifth, I'm going hot take here for the 5th. Because
Oh boy.
why
Landry.
not?
Jake Retzlaff.
I'm putting at number 5, I'm putting Dylan Raiola.
I don't hate it. I don't hate.
No.
You haven't seen.
No.
Is he like? Yeah.
If you're
go
putting
ahead.
Raiola in there, how is Nico not above Dylan Raiola?
Yeah,
that's
Nico
what
is
I was
above
gonna
Dylan
say. How is
Raiola
Miller
for me.
Moss not above him at this point?
Yeah.
I've seen more from both those guys than Dylan Raiola.
And also
I think
Dylan
it's
Raiola-
fair.
Well, Dylan
Raiola-
Raiola, he's
played
looked
against a-
fantastic
Yeah,
in
but
those
he played
spots.
against 2 of the worst defenses in this country.
Look, I hear you. He's just one of those guys. He very much passes the eye test for me. He is someone like his junior year, he is going to be a top 5 quarterback in the country. Like, I feel very confident in that. And I agree, it's a hot take to put him in there now. I just don't love, some of these other guys. I didn't want to go Shedeur Sanders because although I agree that talent is off the charts, just situationally behind a bad O-line, I think the O-line is the problem, but I think there are things that he could do better. There could be better decisions under duress. I think he could get the ball out a little quicker at times. And then Noah Fafita, the turnovers are there. Nico, there's a couple of turnovers against NC State. So that's why I didn't have him in there. It's totally unfair to put Dylan Raiola over those guys, but it's my list. I'm doing it anyway. It's my rules.
There we go.
So I'm doing Dylan Raiola.
like that.
He's just someone I love. Like, I just watch him and I'm just like, I just love how this guy plays.
Connor,
so I'm going Dylan Raiola.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Riley Leonard at 1. No, I'm just kidding.
Riley Leonard, Max Johnson.
Connor Harrell as well.
Connor.
Malik Murphy. No, I don't know. I'm gonna keep chalk here. Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers for me, top 2 teams in the nation. I think Jackson Dart has to be mentioned there at number 3. And then last 2, I think Shedeur Sanders is a valid point. I think the talent's there, and as much as we want to rag on him for the off the field stuff, you're right, Carter. If a below average quarterback was there, they're like maybe 2 wins. And then number 5, I got to go Cam Ward. So Cam Ward, Shedeur, Jackson Dart, Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers.
Oh, so I have my order. I have it 1 through 5. So at 5, I have Quinn Ewers. I think Quinn Ewers is the 5th best quarterback in this country. 4, I'm going Shedeur Sanders. So, like I mentioned before, I don't have to reiterate it. Number 3, I got Jackson Dart. He's so good. He's so freaking good. He elevates that Ole Miss team so much.
Real quick, we saw the same thing last year. So we can't just say, oh, they haven't played anybody this year. He was like the 3rd highest rated quarterback last year. So it's not just too off then with him.
No, he's very good.
And then I'm willing to change this very soon. 2, I have Cam Ward. 1, I have Carson Beck. I'm very tempted to put Cam Ward as the best quarterback in this country right now. He is so good. Carson Beck is going to have the primetime spots in these big SEC games to prove himself, and he's probably going to be the better NFL prospect. And I love Carson Beck. It's a 1A, 1B for me, really. I think Cam Ward is so talented, and people are finally catching up to it this season.
I think that's spot on. I love Cam Ward in the top 5. If I had to order it, Cam Ward would be, I think, number 2 as well, Carter.
It's like I feel like the Cam Ward, Carson Beck conversation is kind of like an RG3 Andrew Luck, where it's like there's the like pro-made, like here's the pro-ready guy, and then here's like the very electric college football player.
Higher ceiling.
Yes, they will both probably have success, but here's the guy that's going to go number 1, and you want to be the face of your franchise. And then there's like the Heisman exciting guy. Those are 2 different guys in a lot of cases, kind of like Luck and RG3 were. I see a lot of that if it comes down to Carson Beck and Cam Ward there at the top in this draft.
The one
I think
Carson
it's
Beck
weirdly... I like a lot of quarterbacks in the first round of this draft. I wanted to say that. I thought it was weaker at the beginning of the season. I like it a lot more than I did a few weeks ago. Sorry,
right,
Connor, go ahead.
No. Carson Beck. Anybody looks good in Georgia system.
All right, we had to let Ben go, but I still want to talk about quarterbacks. Yeah, rest in peace, Ben. Connor, go ahead.
Yeah, the one point I want to make about Carson Beck is, everything we've seen so far has been great. But then again, just about anybody can look great in that Georgia system with that defense on the other side of the ball, with that O-line, with those weapons. Like, you can put anybody in there. Like, Stetson Bennett is not a knock your socks off kind of quarterback, a first-round guy. He looks great at Georgia, won national title. So I think Carson Beck will be fine, but it's really hard for me. And this is not a knock on him, but it's hard for me to put all that stock in Carson Beck when he's in that Georgia system that we've seen so many guys have success in and then not go on to the pros to have success. So that'd be my one caveat.
And that's why I'm willing to put Cam Ward in that same tier, because if you look at it just, you base it off wins, you base it off, stats are a misleading thing because Jackson Dart would be the best player in the country, but he's playing against Furman every week and putting up 450 yards. So that's what? Go ahead.
We have last year to go off of too. He was still top-rated quarterback for the whole season last year.
And that's what I'm saying. He's fantastic. That's why I don't want to take away. Jackson Dart was a poor example there, but Carson Beck, he controls that tempo so well. He controls the game. He's so calm. He's so poised in the pocket. That's what I love about him. But he also Shedeur Sanders at Georgia. They're 12-0. They're 11-1.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, easily.
You put
any of those top 8 guys, 10 guys we mentioned go to Georgia, they're probably 11-1 easily. Yeah,
no questions asked. Dylan Raiola stays at Georgia. He's a top 5. He's actually a top 5 quarterback. I didn't agree with Ben, but he's not. He's actually a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah. I want to real quick, just so we have it on tape. I gave my top 5. I am changing my top 5 in no order. I'm going Carson Beck, Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, Shedeur Sanders, and Jalen Milroe. I don't know why I didn't have Milroe written down here, but I think the running upside, the only knock in that I have on Quinn Ewers is that ADOT this year. It's the 6th lowest. And if you want to talk about college football quarterback, not NFL ready, not who you want in the playoffs, you're going to need a guy that throws it down the field and is explosive.
He can throw it down the field.
Okay, we haven't seen it. We haven't seen it this year.
We saw it last year.
ADOT. His ADOT still wasn't that high last year. So I'm just saying, college football quarterback, Quinn Ewers is going to be great. He's going to be a top prospect. I don't think he'll win Heisman, but he is the most NFL ready quarterback right now.
Quinn Ewers.
Quinn Ewers.
Quinn Ewers.
Really?
I don't know if Quinn Ewers is the most NFL ready quarterback. I don't
Really?
think anybody separated themselves, but I think you look at Carson Beck in there, Shedeur Sanders.
But we've seen the Carson. I don't know if I'm ready to say that about Beck yet. Like we saw this story happen with Stetson Bennett, right? He was in a great Georgia system.
Stetson Bennett he's smaller than Bryce Young and has no mobile ability. It was never going to work in the NFL with Stetson Bennett.
I'm not ready to go there with Beck yet. I will throw, Texas fans, we've been at it. I think Ewers is probably the most NFL ready, and he's the one I want in the playoffs. But Beck, I just can't get there in terms of NFL readiness quite yet.
One thing about Quinn Ewers, though. Would you guys want Quinn Ewers on your NFL team? Carter is a Panthers fan. Do we want Quinn Ewers to be our next quarterback? I just don't know if I'm there.
I'd be fine with it. I think he's fantastic.
I was going to say, yeah.
I still believe in Bryce Young, so we're hanging on to my stock. It's blockbuster right now.
It's changed a little bit since Sunday night.
People are paying you to give it up.
Yeah, we're at penny stocks now. Jordan Belfort screwed me, so you know how it goes. Wait, Dylan, you contradicted yourself. You're saying Quinn Ewers is the number one player you'd want in a college football playoff game?
Yeah, because I think that.
But he's not a top 5 quarterback? That doesn't make any sense.
No, because I think when you get into the playoffs, and we kind of saw this with Michigan last year, is like you think about the Jackson Darts, think about the Nikos. You want to go back and think about the Hendon Hookers. They are more likely to get that one-off upset because of the offensive upside they bring. But it's guys like J.J. McCarthy that took care of the ball, that didn't turn the ball over, that you want deep into the playoffs.
No, but Quinn Ewers isn't a game manager like J.J. McCarthy was. And I'm not saying J.J. McCarthy isn't talented, but Quinn Ewers is not a game manager. Quinn Ewers is a legit dude.
I'm not saying that he isn't a legit dude. I've never said that. I just want to emphasize that when you get to the playoffs, if you want a 12 seed upset, you want a guy like Jackson Dart that, like I said, widens that distribution of the possible outcomes.
Well, it raises your ceiling.
Raises the ceiling, but it also might lower the floor, right? You get a guy that throws it down the field, you're going to have, the possibility of interceptions, right? You become much less accurate the further you target down the field. Guy like Quinn Ewers.
I think that's more of a situational thing rather than a quarterback thing. Because if J.J. McCarthy's on a worse team last year, the floor is way lower and the ceiling is way lower.
Well, with a worse supporting cast, you have to take more risks. So it's like if you're Carson Beck in Georgia, we know what we're getting every week. There's no need for him to chuck the ball down the field and 45 times and take all these huge risk plays and maybe throw a few picks. He can sit back and command the offense, control the line of scrimmage, and not do anything crazy, and they'll still win 12 games. So, I see what you're saying with like a Jackson Dart or a Nico, but I think the reason for that is because their team is worse than a Georgia or a Texas or an Ohio State.
So then I think the conversation gets confined to we've only seen quarterbacks play for one team, right? So I think the argument you guys are trying to make is you've seen Quinn Ewers at Texas with studs. I guess what I'm trying to say is he takes care of the ball, right? And maybe that's because of the teammate. He, like I said, against Michigan, he didn't have to throw the ball down the field. His guys were making things happen. And I get that. But he is able to take care of the ball. Footwork, I've seen be iffy at times, but I mean, I would trust Quinn Ewers to not lose the game for a team more so than a Jackson Dart. And maybe that is because of the supporting cast, but that's just what I think.
Oh, all right. Anything else on the quarterbacks?
I think this is going to be very fluid as the season goes on.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think there'll be 2 or 3 guys that probably remain consistent in there, but I wouldn't be shocked if one of these guys falls off or falls out of my top 5. This is not set in stone.
And there are guys that are in almost another tier. And I think Miller Moss, obviously Nico, and I'm even going to throw Nussmeier in there, just his ability to evade pressure. He has 12 pressures and no sacks. So there are things to look up for these guys, but we can't really put them in that. Even Raiola, I can't put them in the top 5 yet because it's week 2 and we haven't seen anything. But they could be there by the end of the year.
Can we touch on LSU stuff? Brian Kelly
killed a kid.
I love the meme. Oh,
Can
Jesus.
I'm going to pose this question. If you're a Notre Dame fan and you're an LSU, let's say, I want to phrase this
Notre
very
Dame,
well.
we've hardly touched on that.
That's what I want to get to. We'll get to that in a second. But
They lost to a ranked team, so it's not that bad.
Would Notre Dame fans and LSU fans be willing to trade Brian Kelly and LSU go get a new coach?
We have a Notre Dame fan we can tap in for this.
Might have to call Mark and Philly.
We might have to call Mark and Philly and see what he thinks. But
Because
that's tough.
if I'm a Notre Dame fan, I would be pretty thrilled with Brian Kelly back. And if I'm an LSU fan, I'd be pretty thrilled with Brian Kelly gone.
And that I think what's important to hit home here is we always knew that Brian Kelly wasn't like a culture fit down there. If you remember when he first got hired, he was doing that fake Southern accent. So, and I know it sounds silly because that has nothing really to do with how good or bad of a coach he is, but I do think it's important for the team. I don't know. To your point, I think Brian Kelly is a much better fit at Notre Dame, but we'd have to ask a Notre Dame fan if they would want him back.
Well, from everything I've seen about Marcus Freeman and all the flack he's been getting from Notre Dame fans, I don't think that's a reach at all.
But
I don't think that's a reach at all.
The 180 is crazy because after that win against Texas A&M, they're like, "Oh, Marcus Freeman, he's a player's
our
coach,
guy."
right?
Did you see
he's
how
our guy.
pumped up he was pregame tunnel? Like he's here, he's him. And then all of a sudden they lose to Northern, which is valid. You know what? If I was a Notre Dame fan and we lost to Northern Illinois, ranked team by the way, but if we lost to Northern Illinois, I would be pissed, and I'd probably have those reactions as well. So I can't even fault people for doing that 180 because that was such a crazy loss and situation that none of us could have predicted.
And when you watch the Notre Dame game, because Dylan, we've talked about the Oregon-Idaho game a ton, where Idaho was lucky to be in that game. It was trick plays, and you're like, they got outgained left and right. Notre Dame got outgained by Northern Illinois. They got bullied by Northern Illinois.
It wasn't a fluke.
Absolutely not.
That was the craziest part. And Riley Leonard, man, we had questions about him in the passing game. Holy crap, man. He is enemy number one in South Bend right now.
Well, we said that coming into the year. We were like, Riley Leonard at Duke is a different Riley Leonard than the one that's going to Notre Dame, that's going to play at Notre Dame. We were all over that. And maybe that's because we're super plugged into the ACC. Maybe it's because of the injury he suffered last year. But we knew he wasn't going to be the same guy. And Notre Dame's schedule, like they should have, after that big week 1 win, they should have rolled through the rest of the schedule and gotten into the college playoff. And now what? Here's a question for you guys. Does an 11-1 Notre Dame team with a loss at home to Northern Illinois get in the playoffs?
Yes.
If they go 11-1, do they still get in? Yeah. I think that's a valid question.
And I think that at that point, you'll have some OG college football playoff truthers come out and say, this has ruined the game. This Notre Dame team shouldn't be in. But I mean, their schedule is super easy. It's
hard win 11 games, though, would be my next question.
That's another question. Yeah.
No, they're going to lose to Virginia.
Oh,
wouldn't that be crazy?
I like that.
No, they play USC, don't they?
Yes, in the Coliseum.
Yeah, they're not beating USC.
No.
They're not beating USC. Or maybe they just lose to every crap team on their schedule, but they beat the Louisvilles and the USCs on their schedule. There's just no rhyme or reason to Notre Dame.
Louisville.
My goodness. But anyhow.
Lose to Miami, Ohio.
Anything else we want to touch on before we preview a couple games?
Oh, man.
No other college football talking points?
I think I'm good. It's kind of funny how we haven't really talked about a lot of these top teams yet, like Georgia, Ohio State, which is probably a good thing because they haven't given us anything to worry about. Well, except for Dylan, but I don't know.
60th ranked offensive line over in Columbus, but you want to run the ball. Just saying, we'll be able to do it against a non-MAC school.
A couple teams I feel worse about. Penn State, I feel a little bit worse about. I'm not gonna lie, just watching the games, don't feel great on them. They'll probably still make the playoff, and then. A team like USC is exciting. I'm still not in on Miller Moss. Not fully.
What?
It's hard to be.
Not fully.
How can you not? I'm in on Miller Moss. I was in before the season.
Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if he falls off.
Oklahoma State, they are a team that how in the world are they 2-0? They got so lucky in that game, and they're going to walk into conference play 3-0 going into play against Utah, which might honestly determine the Big 12 title game.
And if Cam Rising's not there, you're playing what? Isaac Wilson?
Wilson.
Oklahoma State might get
True freshman. Freshman. And it was deer in the headlights against Baylor on Saturday. I'm excited we'll talk about BC, Missouri, so I don't want to talk about them at all. Ole Miss, they get to play Wake this week in Winston-Salem. If you're a person, Dylan, this has a only for mature audiences, rated R on it. This is
Nice.
not for Big Ten football viewers. You cannot watch this game. You need a permission slip from your parents to be able to watch Ole Miss versus Wake, because points in this game. 63.5. I actually love the over there. I think Ole Miss wins like 70-20.
It's in Winston-Salem, right?
Yeah. Kind of funny. So funny Wake got that game.
Yeah, the 5th-ranked Ole Miss Rebels coming to Winston-Salem. What, Truist Field? Still called Truist Field. Used to be
A legacy-friendly family, Winston-Salem.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It's some bank field, whatever.
I know we briefly touched on this, and this is the last thing we'll do before we preview games. Are we fully out on Clemson?
I'm not out on them. The defense is just there, man. Like, it's really hard, especially in the ACC that appears to be so down. The defense is impressive. They made a statement against App State. Now, we could say maybe App State isn't as good as anybody expected, but it's hard for me to be out on them after I saw what they did in that first half against Georgia. And I understand it's such a small sample size, but, I mean, they tackled well. I liked what the defense brought to the table.
I am completely out on Clemson as a national title contender.
Okay, yeah, I would agree with that.
There's no shot in hell they're going to make the playoff and then win the national title. Yeah, as a playoff contender. They might make the 12 team. Like, they might sneak in. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if I see them in the ACC championship game, but I don't think there's any world where Dabo and Clemson gets back to like a national title. So I am completely out on them in that regard. But in the ACC, in a weaker conference, especially with a team like Florida State and then NC State both pooping the bed, Clemson's probably in the title game, as much as I don't like them.
Let's just pray NC State's not that bad. I mean, please.
I don't think they are. I really don't think they are.
The thing is, if Grayson McCall doesn't throw that pick six in the red zone, we're talking about a totally different game. That really
yes, but also, yes, you're correct. That did change the flow of the game, but they got waxed. It wasn't like it was like a two.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm very nervous about NC State. My futures are in dire circumstances right now with the NC State Wolfpack. I'm freaking out, and I might be just coping right now. But if that pick six doesn't happen, the momentum shift was drastic after that point. And NC State was just dead in the water after that because it was such a grind to get to that point. And they were just dinking and dunking, third down conversions. I think they had 3 or 4 third down conversions on that drive. And then you throw that pick six. And that just, oh my goodness. But Tennessee's defense is good. But let's preview some games. How about that? Let's preview some games. It's just crazy how bad this slate is, fellas. This slate stinks.
I love, segue, I love how they just threw a number 24 right beside BC to get a ranked matchup.
That was deserved.
Yeah, you're right.
Let's talk about the first game, though. Friday night, Arizona, Kansas State. This game's in Manhattan, Kansas. Kansas State -7 in this game. The over-under right now is at 58.5. A lot of people talked themselves into Avery Johnson being a potential Heisman level quarterback this season just because of a bowl game. This is why bowl games are not the end-all, be-all. I don't see it with Kansas State. I don't see why they should be a 7-point favorite in this game. They were a 9.5-point favorite against Tulane. I think we got one more weeks until the sports books catch up to what's really going on in college football, because there was no reason BC should have been a 16.5-point underdog to Florida State. No. There's no reason BYU should have been a 12.5-point underdog to SMU.
Nope.
They haven't quite caught up yet. These first 3 weeks you can get there. Week 4 is when their lines are dialed in. This line makes no sense to me because why is Arizona a 7-point underdog? Oh, because they gave up 39 points to New Mexico. Oh, because they overlooked a Northern Arizona team and didn't really care about that game. I love Arizona in this spot. I think Arizona wins outright. They've got the better quarterback. They've got maybe the best wide receiver in this country. They are going to win this game at Kansas State. I think Arizona wins this game. It's going to be a classic Big 12 shootout. I can't wait for this game. I've got Arizona winning this game 45-31.
I can't get there. Get there.
No, that's too much. That's 42-35.
What'd you say at first?
48. I said 48-31. 45-31. Okay. I don't know what I said, but I'm going 42-35.
I can't get there with Arizona. And like we touched on it with Fafita, the turnovers worry me. This Arizona team is one of the least disciplined teams in the country. Like offensive, defensive penalty yards out the wazoo. And with a spread like 7, it's one dumb penalty. It's one dumb turnover, pick 6, fumble recovery, and it's kind of out of the water there. Now, Arizona does have an advantage in the air. Obviously, I talked about the turnovers, but that doesn't limit the upside that Fafita has. And I think the advantage is there for Arizona. But K-State has an advantage on the ground, and I think that's where this game is going to be cemented. They run the ball well, and I'm not going to take anything, but if I had to lean one way, I would say Kansas State handles their business, but not in a blowout. I think it'll be
So you
game.
think you think they won by 7 or more?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not super confident in it, but I would give Kansas State the advantage just because you know how I feel about those penalty yards, and it's
But
a
that
dumb
Kansas
penalty.
State defense is terrible too. I mean,
I was
it's just
gonna
two terrible defenses, and when you have two terrible defenses, you go with the better quarterback wide receiver duo, in my opinion. And I don't think the ground game is that big of a difference. I don't understand Avery Johnson can run the ball, and Giddens is a great running back, but I don't think there is such a difference in the ground game that Kansas State has that overcompensates for how good Fafita and McMillan are.
But to me, it's just that one slip up, one or two slip ups on Arizona's side of the ball, and it's over.
But Kansas State's a silly team too.
Sure, yeah, I'm not going to doubt that. If I had to go based on reliability, and it's kind of like the playoff conversation we have with the quarterbacks. Honestly, it's just I think Arizona, they could blow this thing open, but I think if Kansas wants to lower the ceiling and higher the floor, I think they're well within their range to do that. And I would bank on that happening more than Arizona blowing it open. And Kansas State's defensive numbers aren't great, but what kind of raises some flags here is that they grade out pretty well, like mid-70s, which doesn't reflect the stats they've let up. So I don't know. Maybe there's some regression there.
Connor.
Yeah, I think this one's pretty simple for me. I'm with you here, Carter. I think Kansas State, it's simple as this. Kansas State can't defend the pass. I trust Noah Fafita and McMillan a lot more than any offensive weapon on that Kansas State side. And I see what you're saying, Dylan, about the variance and turnovers and stuff like that. I think it can go either way, though. And in a game like that, where the spread is 7 points, I lean towards the underdog in a game where there could be a couple turnovers or something like that, because I feel like that would benefit the game being closer, in my opinion. So Arizona getting 7 or 7.5 is way too many points for me, even at Kansas State. They just gave up 27 to Tulane. This is not Michael Pratt's Tulane. So I don't know. I like Arizona here. I like them as a dog, and I'm with you, Carter. I would not be shocked if they went outright, because I really think it comes down to when you have two bad defenses, like you said, who do you trust more? And I trust Fafita to put up points, and it might even be who has the ball last. But this Arizona offense, man, it might just be exciting, but they've got me hooked. So I like Arizona in this game.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, Dylan, you look at the stats against Tulane, they gave up 150 rushing yards to Tulane, gave up over 300 in the passing game.
They can't defend the pass.
They cannot defend. The secondary is awful. McMillan might have 300 yards in this game. That's not a crazy statement. He had 300 yards against New Mexico. He'll probably have over 200 in this game, realistically. And Kansas State got so lucky against Tulane. Tulane had the ball 3 minutes left, and they went off a scoop and score, a BS.
Just put it out on a platter for him. Just run on a platter.
This Kansas State team was very overrated in the preseason because people bought into the Avery Johnson hype. The passing game just isn't really there yet with Avery Johnson. I don't trust it. I trust Fafita and McMillan a lot more. That's why I got to go Arizona here.
I'm with you.
I don't even think we don't even have to do score predictions for this game, but over. I love the over in this game. There's just going to be so many points. Nobody can stop anybody. This is also a rated R game for Dylan.
I won't be watching. Nope, not me. I'll be watching
yourself to that.
You'll be watching replays of Iowa State.
That game went over though, so bad news for you.
Well, still what? 40-some points.
2019. That's a lot of points.
39. That is. You're right.
Iowa State outright. Shout out me.
Boom.
I'm surprised College Game Day is not at this game. Boston College at Missouri.
Friday
I know
night.
It's a crazy statement.
Oh. Sorry, I thought we were still in Arizona. Sorry.
Oh no. Right. Yeah.
I was like,
Boston College at Missouri. Missouri's a 16.5 point favorite in this game. I don't know where to go here because that line could be very right, and maybe Florida State was just that bad. But I mean, I've been all in on this Boston College hype with you guys. Castellanos is awesome. Bill O'Brien's a great head coach. So I don't really know where to go on this one because any result might be possible.
Connor, can you tell me who the number one rated via PFF quarterback is in the nation?
I was recently alerted by a good friend of mine who's really good at stats. I think it's Thomas Castellanos.
I think it's Thomas Castellanos. And here's the thing, right? The teams these two guys have played, it's like you have Boston College who played Florida State, who might be down, but it's still a big game for them. And then I think they played Duquesne, which is whatever. Yep. Thomas Castellanos, 9 for 10, like 25 yards an attempt, 4 touchdowns against Duquesne. Well, I I understand it's Duquesne, but I'm going to say the same thing about Missouri. It's kind of impressive no matter who you're playing. And Missouri, they haven't allowed a point this year.
They haven't allowed a point.
They haven't allowed a point.
They're outscoring teams 89-0.
And I think when I'm hanging my hat on here, and the reason why I wasn't big on Missouri in the SEC preview is because I think now we're late to the party. Or like last year, they had a 6.5 win total. We knew Brady Cook was a dog. We knew they had weapons, and we were able. But now I think people are kind of figuring it out, and I think I know we're above or before or ahead of the curve with Boston College because
we are the curve.
We are the curve. Flatten the curve. Connor, the things that we said in the preseason show, like they're top 3 pass block unit. They're a top 10 offense. Now, granted, I understand we're 2 weeks in. I love Boston College here. I think we are getting a discount again on this Boston College team because people are so high on Missouri and Brady Cook. Brady Cook this year, 3 rushing touchdowns, 1 passing touchdown. I think one game he had 1 or 2 interceptions and no touchdowns. I can't remember. But he also hasn't played all of those games, obviously. The worry I have for Boston College, they allow the 6th most rush yards per attempt in the country, but they're battle tested. Like they've had the tougher game out of Missouri and Boston College.
And on the road.
And on the road. So it's
a different country.
Boom. Yeah. So it's boom.
Not a different country.
Yeah, not a different country for Boston College. I was going to let it slide, but
What?
Georgia Tech was different.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's on me. That's hand up there. Yeah,
we can't let these things slide, Dylan.
These mid-tier ACC teams just blur together, don't they?
Yeah. But to wrap it up, Brady Cook's great on the ground. I think that will give Boston College troubles. But 16.5, man, that's a lot of points for a Boston College team that has shown us there's a lot to be excited about. Now, Castellanos scares me every time he drops back in the pocket, and he got happy feet back there. But I love Boston College here.
Wow, Connor.
I'm going to ride this Boston College train until the wheels fall off because I love Boston College here too. Give it to me. Dylan, my first point was going to be they're the only team out of these two that have played a real game. Genuinely. At Florida State, tough test. I know, and Florida State, especially coming off that loss, like we just said, to Georgia Tech in Dublin, that was the primetime bounce back spot for Florida State. Like, I was terrified. As a BC backer, I was like, oh, man, Florida State's going to get back on track and blow them out. And then Castellanos and Boston College come out and win. And Castellanos is one of those quarterbacks, like we just mentioned, where you were like, now he's a tier below these guys, but you were like, Jackson Dart and some of these guys that could raise the ceiling and win you a game because of how electric they are and how much upset potential there is. Thomas Castellanos is that guy. He's the guy you want on your team. If you're a lower team, a lesser tier team like Boston College is in this matchup, you want a quarterback like Thomas Castellanos on your side because he raises your ceiling so much with his playmaking ability. And yes, he makes me nervous on every drop back. I texted y'all this weekend. I was like, my heart rate is through the roof every time I see Thomas Castellanos back there. But he's who you want on your team as an underdog. He's somebody that can go into a tough environment and pull off an upset as 17-point dogs. I love Boston College here. I think they cover.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I was late to the Boston College train, and I hopped on the bandwagon. Once I saw how bad FSU was, and I saw that line was 16.5 against FSU, I was like, I got to get in on this Boston College thing. And after that, you get hooked. It's like a drug. You're like, holy crap, dude. This is so fun watching Castellanos and this BC team. Yeah, I'm in too. I like Boston College to cover the number 2. But, Dylan, also, why is this game at 12:45?
I saw that. I don't know. Trying to feel like they get the ranked matchup and then they throw it into a weird time slot. It's almost like a primetime game.
But what were you going to say, Dylan?
We talked about Thomas Castellanos. Obviously, he steps back and you worry, but 14% big time throw rate and no turnover worthy plays. And I understand 2 weeks in, you take it with a grain of salt. That is still impressive to this point for a team like Boston College. You would expect guys on a roster like this to have higher numbers than that, higher turnover worthy plays. Also want to point out top rated tackling unit in the country right now. Again, 2 weeks in, but if there was one thing that is like you tackle the guy in front of you, I understand it matters who's in front of you, but if you can procedurally get the tackling right, I think that's a huge advantage. I love Boston College here. I love Boston College to win the game. I think they'll win.
Why not? Let's do it. Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
And everybody, you do know ball, Dylan. Thank you. Once it happens, I want to hear
it. Real quick, Missouri might go 11-1.
That's possible.
There's a world Missouri's playing in the SEC title game, guys.
That defense looks damn good.
I don't think people are prepared to see the Missouri Tigers playing in the SEC title game because you got BC, you got Vandy at A&M, tricky game, but it's a noon game, so whatever, or 11 a.m. Central. UMass, home Auburn, they stink. At Alabama, loss.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, at South Carolina, at Mississippi State, home Arkansas. That's 10, 11 wins right there. I don't see the floor is 10 wins in my opinion.
Yeah,
I
that's
think,
not
I
crazy.
think that's fair, especially after what we've seen from the defense.
Defense is so good.
Defense
is so good. All right. I think that's it for the game previews. There's nothing
Wait,
else, you can go.
Can we talk?
Do you guys two have Missouri winning? Do you two guys have Missouri winning?
Yeah, I have Missouri winning.
Connor?
Give me Boston College
Yes.
to break everyone's heart.
Give me Andre Iguodala.
Can we just talk about how many SEC teams are in the top 10? I'm just now realizing that's absurd.
7, 6.
I think isn't it? Is it 6 of the top 7? Oh man,
Means different.
I love realignment.
Means different. Means more
I love
down there.
realignment. It does.
Yeah,
more.
it means more in the ACC. You know what they say. Any picks you guys like this week before we wrap up? Any picks you like, and then we'll do a parlay and get out of here.
Is this when we're doing our dogs?
We can do dogs.
I don't really have picks, but I have my dog ready.
Okay, dog
Please,
of the week.
give us your dog, Dylan.
Favorite underdog pick.
My dog, woof woof. I like Boston College as a dog, but we covered that game, so I won't touch much on this. This is a dog I think has lost games, but has outplayed their opponents. I think you're getting a discount on this team, and it's against a team that has won games and not outplayed their opponents. Give me Nevada outright against Minnesota. Yeah,
I love that.
Plus 640. Everybody is sleeping on this Nevada team. They almost pulled out against SMU. They lose to Georgia Southern last week, but they outgained them by like 200 and some yards.
They were 3 yards away from winning that game.
Had a 15% higher success rate than Georgia Southern and still lost. Nevada is doing things right in these close games that they're losing. And Minnesota, we look at them against North Carolina. They had a higher success, and nothing against North Carolina, but their success rate was higher. Their net EPA was higher per play. Now, I do want to pose this question. Is Iowa a look-ahead game for Minnesota?
I'm not.
Like, do you look ahead to Iowa if you play a Nevada team with 2.5 win total?
That's like saying I'm looking forward to. That's like I'm saying I'm looking forward to going to Arby's tonight.
Well, do you have the beef and cheddar combo, Carter? Discount.
Yeah,
good brisket.
Yeah, let's go to Hardee's, fellas. Woohoo!
I will say, Dylan, about Minnesota, Max Brosmer as their quarterback doesn't inspire a lot of faith in me. He did not look great against Carolina, and if it was any other quarterback in that game against Carolina, I think probably the Tar Heels lose that game. But Max Brosmer is their quarterback. I love this pick. I love it. At
plus 640, I'll take the points. I'll take the money line.
Yeah.
I think that this is my upset for the week. I'm going Nevada officially, but we talked about Boston. I love Boston College too.
Am I allowed to say Arizona?
That's up to you, but
it's over a touchdown. It's over a touchdown.
If one of us have bigger odds, we get to brag about it more.
Yeah, I'm going to go
the
Arizona.
only one that hits.
I'm going to go Arizona.
I
think they went outright. Because you could talk about Alabama, Wisconsin. I know we could have previewed that game. Look, it's going to be a fun environment there, and I think it's going to be a game that's tight in the first half. And you're like, ooh, Alabama, because Alabama, for some reason, just can't get going in the first half of these games for some reason. And then Alabama pulls away. But
yeah,
South Carolina, are they a live dog? Because if South Carolina wins on Saturday, Brian Kelly will not return to Baton Rouge.
Oh, yeah.
If they lose to Lenore Sellers with the Rec Specs, what a guy.
Yeah.
The
Connor
Rec
dog.
My favorite dog of the week, mentioned it earlier to you guys in a text thread. I'm going Wyoming. I'm going Wyoming against BYU.
Wow.
Connor,
you don't want to do this.
I have
telling
to.
you.
Not to the Cougs.
The only thing I've heard is all the negative stuff preseason from you and Ben and Chase and whoever about BYU football. They come in, they're 2-0, big, they were 12.5-point dogs, beat SMU. That line was wrong, but they did beat SMU as 12.5-point dogs. This will be the most BYU thing ever. And that's the simple fact as to why I'm going with it. It's because they'll lose to Wyoming. Everybody's out on Wyoming. They've lost 2 in a row, looked terrible against Arizona State. I think they upset BYU here.
And, this is a little inside baseball here. This is Wyoming's Super Bowl. It's a real rivalry between BYU and Wyoming.
It's in Wyoming, too.
It's in Laramie. Laramie's the weirdest place to play in this country. Laramie is one of the worst places on earth I've ever been to. I've stayed the night in Laramie, and I hated every second of it. I don't think that's a terrible pick because the quarterback play from BYU is atrocious.
Yeah, and Wyoming's 10.5 point dogs right now, plus 350 on the money line. That's my pick, 10.5 points.
I don't hate it. I would never lay the 10 with BYU, to be honest, on the road.
No, hell no.
So, Wake Forest is not a live dog, unfortunately. But anyhow,
Nope.
All right, let's do parlay picks and let's get out of here. Also, I'm going to ride the UVA wheels until they fall off as well. They play Maryland this week. I don't like that Maryland team, but if you are a Maryland backer, this is a great bounce back spot against the UVA team. But I like UVA in this spot. Anyhow. Parlay picks.
Before we get to the parlay, I need verbal confirmation that we're going to be betting the full parlay with no legs omitted, because I'm not going to waste my time if I'm just going to be thrown to the curb like that.
Yeah, deal.
Because it's your fault that the Rams lost. The Rams lost too, right?
Oh, bad juju.
Okay, then Michigan lost. You missed that pick. And what was your pick in the college football parlay the previous week? Ooh,
Jacksonville State, Coastal Carolina. Or was
so
that
is Dylan 0-3 on parlay picks?
Oh,
because of you. It's because you don't believe it.
No. I took the NFL and the college football one, and you didn't take a lot of them last year.
I'm not a parlay guy. I only take them if I have boosts or risk free.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not. Where's that clown from the KarterKast show? Can he come on here and show his face?
Karter, I'm not omitting picks though. If I'm either betting the whole parlay or nothing at all, it's not me. I don't like this pick that Karter gave. I'm going to leave it out.
The only issue with it was that I was so big on Texas, and we were doing the live stream. I could not have rode Michigan with you with that. That wouldn't have made any sense.
You didn't.
That was
have
the
to.
only.
You could have bet Texas. You bet Texas. You could have just thrown them in.
I put Texas in the parlay.
Oh, so
that's even worse. That was a full fake.
Oh,
no,
right.
Yeah, it's a full fake because we disagreed on that game. That was the whole point of doing the stupid live stream, Dylan.
I can't do this thing where if you disagree with a pick that I give on the parlay, you're just going to fade it. I spend time making these picks.
No. That is completely different because we knew what was going into that game. We knew what was about to happen with those clips. We knew.
No, are you serious right now? We've put clips out like that millions of times before, and they've never caught steam like that.
If we are on complete opposite sides, where I said Texas was going to blow them out, and you said Michigan was going to win outright, I think that's fair, I think we're both wrong here. I think we need to veto that pick from the parlay then, because if not all sides can say okay, fine, then we have to veto that pick.
I think it would be more interesting to let chance decide an order, and you
I
have
don't
to
want to
deal with
lose money if I'm betting both sides. That doesn't make any sense.
Oh, I hate to break it to you, but if you're betting parlays in general, you're going to be losing money.
Well, sure.
So you don't
absolutely.
like fun then, Dylan. So you don't like fun then.
I like fun when everybody's on board.
We are on board.
We're a team.
You weren't.
I don't know. I've been on board. You weren't. I've been on board. I've lost money because of you, Dylan. You're 0-3. You're 0-3.
I've lost money because of you, Karter. How many times have you given me a bum over
what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Hey, Dylan. What was that over we took? Eagles, Packers. You remember that?
You're 1 for 1. Great,
Dub.
Karter. Great.
Dub. 1-0 this season. What are you? 0-3. I don't want to hear it.
All right,
0-3.
Fine. Yeah.
What's your pick this week?
No, what's your pick? You go first.
You go first.
No, you go
I'll
first.
No, you go first. This is fun. I had a pick. I don't want to do a Friday night game. I was going to make Arizona +7, but you don't like that pick. I'm going to make this horrible for you, Dylan. Ole Miss Wake over 63.5.
Oh my gosh! In Winston,
I'm putting the under in for my bet slip.
Do it.
Oh no.
Do it.
You guys have spent too much time with each other recently. The live stream, the 2-person episode for the recap.
Breaking news.
What? Did Mike Vrabel kiss someone?
Denard Robinson, Braylon Edwards among four to file $50 million lawsuit versus NCAA Big Ten Network for being denied NIL profits.
Yeah, NC State's
We're just the
doing
dog,
the same
man.
thing.
We're the
NC State's
dog.
doing the same thing right now.
Everybody hates on Michigan.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Also,
Parlay.
the line moved to Kansas State -7.5 while we were on the air.
Perfect.
Someone tapping in our wires here?
Maybe so. They were like,
on
"Ooh,
live
this
updates.
Karter guy's an idiot." Ole Miss Wake over for me, Dylan.
I'll go Boston College 16.5.
I love it.
Okay.
Connor.
See, we can agree on that one.
Connor.
Yeah. Parlay pick here. I'm going back to the well here. West Virginia -2.5 against Pittsburgh. That's my pick.
Another rivalry game.
Yeah, I'm taking West Virginia. trust Garrett Green, rushing attack. Jaheim White's back. He didn't play against Penn State. And I don't think we can take too much away from that Penn State game for the rushing attack. That's one of the best rush defenses in the country. And then you look at Pittsburgh, Eli Holstein's their quarterback. If you've watched any Pittsburgh this year, he's begging to turn the ball over. Fumbles, picks, he's just begging to turn it over.
And they
I love
got
West Virginia.
bailed out against Cincinnati.
Oh,
if you had
yeah.
Cincinnati spread in that game, you will remember that till the day you die. That is on par with the Tennessee Titans loss against the Bears.
I'm taking West Virginia minus 2.5 on the road. I know it's scary in this rivalry game to lay those points like that, but I love it. Give me Garrett Green. I'm backing him once again.
I'm going to call my shot. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I didn't know we were
You
still
don't
No,
like that,
go
Dylan?
ahead, Dylan.
You don't like that pick, Dylan?
No, what I was going to say has nothing to do with the parlay.
Oh, okay.
It was
All right.
completely selfish statement.
Oh, real quick, before you say that, then Ben's pick Oregon State plus 16.5 against Oregon.
Love
Games
it.
on Corvallis.
I'm going to call my shot here. I have to redeem myself. A lot of you don't know ball guys out there. If you have a risk-free, if you have a profit boost, Boston College, Nevada money line parlay 46-1. I'm throwing it out there. Just so we have the clip just in case. Planting my flag.
All right.
I love it.
Okay.
The
I love
Dylan
it.
redemption parlay.
All right. We went longer than I thought. There wasn't a lot to talk about this week with college football week 3
That was
or
fun.
wherever we're at now. But anyhow, NFL show, make sure to subscribe to that. NFL recaps. No live stream this week, Saturday night, because what would we live stream even about? A Boston College dub. That's what we would talk about.
Yeah,
So
maybe
anyhow.
like a 5-minute quick reaction video.
Yeah, no, we're not doing live stream this Saturday night, and then Sunday Sunday night we're going to record NFL recaps, NFL preview out the day after this. So if you're listening Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, guess what? Wednesday night, Thursday morning, NFL preview's out. Go listen to that. Subscribe. We over 1,000 subscribers, Dylan.
That's what I was going to say. We did it. We are so
Thank you to-
close. That's huge. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you to everyone that subscribed. Thank you to everyone that joined the live stream and all the comments, everything. Thank you. It's been awesome. Connor, real quick, you had something to say before we go.
Just real quick, does it
Me too.
ever mess you guys up that we're in college football week 3 and NFL week 2 and it's just off?
I hate that.
It's messing me up right now.
It puts my
because
brain in a pretzel.
Yeah, because I'm thinking NFL week 2 because the NFL week 2 slate's better. I'm like, ooh, the Panthers outright against the Chargers. Who knows? But anyhow.
Do we want to do a classic bit real quick? I know we've done this in the past, but the presidential debates tonight, so we could say like, oh, I can't believe Donald Trump said that. I can't believe that he called Kamala that on air. Can you believe that he said that on air?
And
No.
that's going to play no matter what he says. So
You're
like,
right.
that
His fans-
comment's-
A lot of
fan base-
people. All right, we're getting out of here. Just follow at KarterKast on everything, at Connor_Sparrow, at Wilkerson Dylan, at CarterB8. Subscribe, like, rate, review. Do what you got to do to help out. Over 1K. Let's keep this going. Let's keep the train rolling. Thank you so much for listening. Use code KarterKast at SeatGeek. $20 off your first purchase. We'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.